Hello and welcome to the BeamNG Utah Rally. We've got 12 kilometers of stages ahead of us, the first of which will be on the tarmac roads, twisting through the North Canyons, making way down to the south end of the map. It's 7.5 kilometers, so making up the majority of the rally. And first up, we have got a rally converted Formula One car with the Project Valkyrie, driven and designed by Artie. This gets off the line here. First card run. It's on, as you would expect from Formula One cards, on the lighter end of the allowed regulations. Making its way through the first corners now. Getting a little stuck up against the cliff face. But into the first tight corners. Deep into the right-hander. And then a little wide out of the hairpin. So for the Valkyrie struggling with grip at those speeds, it seems, which is to be expected. The Formula 1 car usually focusing on the arrow. You can see the wings it has. It runs slightly wide once more. So struggling for downforce of those speeds. Get up to a bit of a higher speed here as it approaches the first jump into the first chicane as well. We're going to take a look at the second car to start stage. Adabo in the Mad Inferno. This car on the heavier but more powerful end of the regulations. Into the first corner, a tightening right-hander to start stage of. Can be a little decepting, but drivers aren't too quick into it, being the first corner. And we've got this right-hander which tightens up into this left-hand hairpin as the drivers ascend towards the north end of the Utah map. Got this tricky crest here as the track curves to the right for bringing you into this left-hander, very crucial left-hander, as we've got one of the fastest parts of the track coming up with this run along. As you start the run along the north cliff face of the map, we've got this little bit of a jump that leads into the first chicane. Can be quite tricky with the speed you're carrying. But we move on to the third card star stage. It will be Orange in their Vorpal STTS rally. Another very downforce based car, as you can see, with its massive rear wing, two-tier rear wing, as well as a diffuser on the underside. It looks to be have good acceleration, quite grippy here. Little bit deep into that right-hander. A little bit of wheel spin out of the hairpin. But it's looking like this car has a good bit of potential if Orange is able to extract it. They're being careful over the crest. A little bit tight into the left-hander. But they'll make it out the other side. And now start climbing speed a little offline as they make their way towards first chicane. As well now. Take a look at our fourth competitor, Fiona Zombie in the Avante 860 rally. Quite one of the more unique vehicles competing today, being a minivan. It's a little bit wide into the first corner, so we're getting caught out by how it tightens up. Though gets turned in well to the right-hander. A little bit early on throttle, understeers out through the hairpin, but switch back to Artie now, who's reached the first split at 4.7 kilometers and has missed the chicane. Just breaking two, they decided to bail out of the chicane, but had to run right over a rock, which wouldn't have done any help to the car. Oh, it nearly falls off the edge. Nearly falls off the edge of the mountain into that little valley. Runs wide subsequently, trying to keep off the edge of the track. But yeah, finding that downhill braking zone very difficult. Move on to our next competitor now. Starting is that Viper, who has taken a limo to this event. Very interesting car. We'll see how well it can tackle with the tighter sections. Let's come up to the first hairpin. Oh, the rotation's really good. Using a bit of wheel spin to get the back end rotated, which is very good. Switch back to Adamo now, who's reached the first split at 3:15.6, 6.6 seconds up on Artie, and once again deep into the chicane, locks the front tires into the front barrier. Doesn't look like it's too heavy of a hit, and it was very square on with the barrier, so should just be some front bumper damage, no major wheel damage. Head down to this downhill braking zone, doesn't quite have the car lined up. Once again, scrambles over the rocks, lucky to fall back onto the track. But that won't have helped the car. Maybe have done a little bit of damage. Certainly lost them a little bit of time. We have our next competitor in the Project Valkyrie. It is Robot. Once again, a slow start off the line here. But they'll be looking to see if they can keep up with Artie. Trying to beat their supposed teammate, as you could say. Speaking of, Artie is coming up to the finish line now and will finish with a 5:16.2. But we've heard they've got a 10-second time penalty for the cutting of chicane. Going back to Orange now, they're 2.5 seconds down on Adabo as they reach the final chicane. Just after the split point. Is that they will now be making their way down to the downhill braking zone. We're going to switch back to Robot, who's coming up to this left-hander, runs a little bit wide and hits a bush. That's done a lot of damage to the rear right tyre. I think they're going to really struggle to keep going with that amount of damage. So that could be our first retirement from the rally. Adabo now making their way towards the end of the stage. We've got a few fast corners to end the stage. Taking it cautiously, nice and easy, as they've just passed the 5-minute mark. Runs a little bit wide over a rock. Has a little bounce, but seems to get away with it. It'll be a 5-minute 9.9 for Adabo to take the rally lead for the first cars through. Next we have Dodge 26 in their S-Sport RC Dodgeworth. They were a little bit wide through the right-hander, leaving them tight into the hairpin. But one of the lighter cars we've got for today's rally, as they come up with for the crest, seem to be taking a little bit cautiously. It's left-hander car sliding wide again, and it's into the bush again. It looks like they've got away with it, obviously not having exposed wheels helping with that, but the car is crabbing. You can see the steering just turning to the left to try and keep the car straight. We switch back on to Orange. This is a bit of a replay as they've ran deep into the final square left. Towards the end of the stage, so that will have cost them a little bit of time. We catch up now with the end of their run. Come through the final left-hander up to the line. It will be a 5:10.1, just missing out on the rally lead by 0.2 of a second. That's very close there. That final mistake through the left-hander costing them quite a bit. Now on board with their next competitor to start with, Not the Bees in their Enorm LC rally. We'll catch up with them later. We're back on board with the minivan, with Fiona running a little deep into that corner, but they're the fastest by the first split. So as long as they don't haven't made any mistakes, apart from what we've seen that ride moment, they could be taking the rally lead here. A little bit tight on the right-hander, lucky not to hit one of the rocks on the inside. Through the final left-hander, seems like they're taking it a bit cautiously. Up to the line now, it'll be a 4:59.1, our first sub 5-minute run of the stage, and we jump on board with Dodge running wide, landing back on the stage, but that was a sketchy moment there off the stage. Falling wide, and once again they're sliding wide. It's into a rock this time. That's a heavy hit on the rock. Looks like they've luckily taken that on the side, on the door of the car, and their wheels have got away with that. That's very crucial. Very lucky there. Jump on board with Viper, fastest through the first split with 3:05, and it's a 4:47.2 for them to end off what must have been a very clean run we've seen very little of, taking them to the current rally lead. Next on board we have Norefs in their Naru Quinal as they're making their way up towards the jump. Just in a minute into the stage. Take it nice and cautiously. They'll have an easy run into the first chicane. Get through there quite nicely. With their little pickup filled to the brim, trying to meet the minimum weight for the event. But now we'll switch to Haster, who's in the Mosquito. Through the right-hander, through the hairpin. Looks quite tidy so far. Car looks reasonably balanced, but we jump on board board with Dodge, who we know is carrying that damage. They're 14.2 seconds down at the split, 1.5 off of Orange, but a bit over 2 seconds ahead of Ardy. How do they further this downhill braking zone? Managed to get the car stopped and kept it on the road, which is good going so far, especially considering they have that damage. Haster now over the jump, getting a little bit of air into the chicane. Very cautious, it seems, but getting through safely, which is what matters. We jump on board with Dodge. You can see that car just moving around with the damage. Coming up to this fast right-hander, but leads into this square left junction. They've locked up, and they're into the barrier off a rock that's dragged the wheel off, and they're now rolling down towards this bridge. You can see the wheel's rolling away very quickly down the bridge, but it seems like Dodge has got stuck on this barrier, and losing that wheel doesn't seem like they'll be able to continue, and they'll be the second retirement of our stage. We find Not the Bees at the final chicane. They're a little deep, hit the tyre wall, but after being slowest into the first split by 12 seconds, which is unfortunate to see, by 11 seconds, sorry. So hopefully they can have a good final end to the stage. Hopefully they haven't picked up too much damage from that little clunk on the wall. Didn't look too heavy, but you never know with Beam. But we now jump on board with Iris, coming up to the chicane. Looks very committed here in the Ibex rally. Now into this left-hander. A little bit wide, but seems committed here from Iris. Into this tightening right-hander. She's off. She's gone wide, and it's a heavy crunch off the side of the mountain. That is for sure going to be unrecoverable, and will make up the third DNF of the stage, unfortunately. We jump on board with Narefs, who reaching first split 16.3, half second ahead of Ardy. Little deep into the chicane, but manages to get that little pickup round, proving very agile despite the little mistake and little lock up into the chicane. We go on board with Not the Base, who's run wide at the junction. They've nearly got the car caught up on a couple of rocks. They've had to reverse off of them, but we're able to carry on. We jump on board with Haster now, who's the fastest at the first split, a 3 minute 1.1. Getting the car slowed down for the hairpin car. Looks a little unstable on the brakes, but they got slowed down, got turned through quite nicely as they head on to take what will presumably could be the fastest time of the rally so far. Jump back on board with Not the Base, coming up to the finish line shortly through the final couple of left-handers. It's nice and tidy, but it hasn't been too quick of a stage. The cross line, it'll be a 5:43.9, slowest through the stage so far. Naref's now into the hairpin. Has decent rotation. Now up over these bumps into this tight left-hander. Oh, they've ran wide, they've ran off, they've not been able to slow the car down over the bumps. And they've rolled, that's quite far off the road. That could be the fourth retirement of the rally, unfortunately for them. Jump on board with Haster now through the hairpin. Let's be a bit quicker, a bit more confident through the hairpin. How will they manage over these bumps? A little bit more cautious, but still out wide once again, as we've seen from a couple of people. Getting the rear end out, but has managed to sort of keep it on the stage. Won't have lost too much time from that little moment. Seems to be carrying good speed through these final couple of corners. A little wide again out towards that rock, just about avoiding it. So come up to the line, it will be a 4:44.6. As that will take them to the rally lead so far by 2.5 seconds. So they bit of slower through that final section. Jump on board Arizona now, falling off the edge of the stage on that limo. Looked like the rear end just sort of stepped out over a crest, and unfortunately for them fell off stage. Now jump on board with Orange Ghost, who has by far taken the fastest time through the split at 2:53.4. Our first sub 3 minute split. So this could easily take the rally lead if they're not a little deep into this tight right-hander over the bridge. A couple of little taps on the wall, but they look quite minor. But once again, you never know with Beam. Could be a little bit of damage. We'll see them through now. So this right-hander able to keep the car in tight, get it rotated very nicely into that square left. Very difficult to get the car to change direction through there, so we've seen others struggle as they head downhill to the hairpin. A little cautious on the brakes, get the car turned in nicely. Accelerate out the end. This looks like it will be a good run. Over the bumps, how does the car deal with the bumps? Quite well. They get the car turned in to a good apex. This run's looking very clean, very good. Only a few more corners to go now. How committed will they be to finish the stage off? Quite committed, maybe a little too committed. Car gets a little slidey towards the left-handers. They kind of have to back it off to make sure they get round. But up to the finish at a 4:33.1. That'll take the rally lead by over 11 seconds now. As we jump on board with P-Fugs, the designer of the Mosquito, as through the first split now, their slowest through so far, 51 seconds off, so it seems like they've struggled. We're also hearing that they had a roll on the stage. You can see damage to the rear wing there, evidence of that. So it's been a messy stage for them so far, and they've lost a lot of time. Let's see how they do with the rest of the stage. Struggling with rear end grip with that wing damage, having a spin into this first of the two very difficult downhill braking zones. But they're still going, which is the main thing. We've seen, hopefully they'll still be able to make it to the end of the stage. You can see the rear end just moving around with that damage. Get the car turned in nicely to the right-hand hairpin over the bridge. Now, how will they fare with this square right? They've got the car really sideways, and they've lost the rear end once again. Managed to sort of bring the car back around. And into the junction here. Oh, once again losing the rear end. Able to use a base off the stage, off the road, to get the car turned back around, but very much struggling for rear end grip. Look at it once again, the rear end just floating all over the place as they head down to the hairpin, being very cautious, slightly cutting the hairpin a little bit, but wasn't too quick. Over the bumps now, we can assume they'll be cautious again. The rear end steps out, but they actually get through quite well. Oh, front nearly come back around, just getting on stage before those rocks there. Rocks can be very deadly, though we've seen 2 bush murders so far at the start of the stage. Not seen the rocks be too damaging, with Dodge obviously getting away with that hit earlier on, if it wasn't for a barrier taking them out. But as we come across the end of the stage, it'll be a 5:54.8, but there is a 5-second time penalty appended onto that for the roll earlier on. Now we jump on board with Phoba with the I8 Rally. They're 3 seconds off of Viper in 4th place at the split. 4.5 seconds ahead of Fiona, but they've had a little bit of over-rotation through the hairpin. Had to grab reverse to not drive into the rock on the inside. How will they fare over the bumps? Rear end steps out once again, but gets the car nicely rotated. It looks like it's maybe a little bit of overkill, but it's getting the car rotated over the bumps. Maybe it's what's needed, as we've seen plenty of people running wide through that square left-hander. As we come through the stage, rear end stepping a little bit. Only a little bit clean, using all the road in a little bit more off the final left-hander, and it's going to be a 4:49 to finish the stage. That'll leave them 1.8 seconds off of Viper. So now jump on board with Dara, second so far through the split. 4.9 seconds off, but it's deep, nearly backing up into a rock through the junction. As they head down to the hairpin. And well, as far as get the car rotated a little wide on the exit, doesn't look too quick. So they'll be trying to stay ahead of Haster with that mistake. They had a 2.8 second margin through the split. So it looks like this could be a close one. With that half spin through the junction, it looks like a clean run through the final few corners. Now let's run up to the line. What's the time? It's going to be a 4:44.2. That will just beat Foba will just beat Haster by 11.5 seconds. So just holding on to what is now second in the rally, but we have one more car to go. Clumsy, they're 0.9 seconds down at the split on Dara, but we know from Dara's mistake, second place is easily up for grabs here for Clumsy. The final car through today's stage. As they come up, it's looking good through first bit into left-hander. Car looks nicely responsive, very well balanced. As they come up to the line, it's going to be a 4:37.5. That will take second place in the rally. Only 4.4 seconds off of Orange Ghost. With that, we have all our finishes, so we can look at the final results for the first stage of the BeamNG Utah Rally. Orange Ghost will take it with a 4:33.1, 4.4 ahead of Clumsy, 11.1 ahead of Dara, and Haster only 0.4 behind Dara. Viper 14.1 off the lead, and Phoba missing out on top 5 by just under 2 seconds. Fiona then coming up 20 seconds off the stage lead, and with 10 seconds back to Adabo. Only 2/10 separating Adabo and Orange. That'll be a close battle to look out for in the second stage. With Artie 53 seconds off, Not the Base and P-Fugs over a minute off, a minute 10 and a minute 26 respectively. But at least they were able to see the end of the stage. Unlike Narefs, Dodge, Iris, Arizona, and Robot, unfortunately DNF'd. As we head with a second stage to come later on. We hope you can catch us then. But for now, thanks for joining us.